Hi friends, we have another Bobo video and a huge thank you to Bobo for sending me these beautiful tools. I am grateful for the opportunity to have connected with her finally. It's been a long time coming. If you would like to check out our first video that I did in collaboration with Bobo, meaning she sent me a set of brushes and I was going to say spoke about them, more like gushed about them like I am now. You could check that out up on this link or down below in the description box. But today we have a new set to share and I am beyond excited to show you the B-roll. Okay, we got the demonstrations, we got a handwritten letter, we got a sticker on the letter. I wanted to start with this brush that, my apologies, first and foremost. What are you sorry for, Alicia? Well, this gem she had sent in advance, but I was unable to get on here in time before she started the pre-sale on her site, which, by the way, I've become an affiliate. If you would like to support in advance, thank you for your consideration. You can find my link down below, and I believe my code for first-time buyers 15% off is Alicia. If it is not, you can see that is not in the description, but I think it is. This beautiful silver fox and high gray Saikoho blend foundation brush is a Chikuhodo collaboration, and you have the beautiful Makie handle with the signature pearl finish owl on here, just like her gray squirrel and Saikoho goat mix powder brush. When I saw this brush, or first of all, when I saw this on her IG page, which I would highly recommend that you visit and follow, as Bobo shares beautiful insights on her tools and why she makes them, and she asks the audience as well, what do you think about this length, this density, this shape? Is interactive and a lot of fun. When Bobo shared this brush and when I saw that it was in the package, I was elated. There's no other word to describe how I felt at the time. And it is currently sold out. I believe Bobo and Chikuhodo will only create, or rather produce, a limited number. So the lucky ones that nailed that pre-sale, congratulations. Because this brush, let me tell you, first of all, it's like rubbing a velvet puff on your face. And I did use it with liquid foundation. Now here is the thing, we are dealing with a natural hair, and natural hairs are inherently more delicate than synthetic fibers. Now if you are not about natural hairs and you're just here to hang out, I appreciate you, friend. But if you do like to use natural hair brushes for your foundation application, I would use a tiny bit amount like I do here on my Danessa palette with the Haus Labs foundation in 330. I'll have all the products that I use in this demo down below if you wanted to shop around and were just curious. And what did you put on her face? You have to tread lightly, as natural hairs are far more delicate. It's important to not overwhelm the brush with product. If you typically squeeze foundation on top of your brush, like a Sigma brush for instance, please don't do that. Please don't do that with this brush. It's important to work the product first, either on the back of your hand or on a palette, as I do here in the demo, and then lightly graze the brush across the product so to not overwhelm the bristles. And then look how I go in with the circular technique. Okay, this is the only way I feel appropriate to fully appreciate the brush's design, the brush's feel, the density. My goodness, I could not believe the sensorial experience I was having with this Silver Fox and Saikoho blend, the first of its kind in my collection. I either have purely Silver Fox, like I have here with the Chikuhodo Silver Fox line that, my goodness, I covet still to this day, and the first, woo, this is made out of all Silver Fox hair. Okay, this was the Chikuhodo brush that I was unable to grab the first round, but when they re-released this brush, ooh, did I make sure I have it. I think Silver Fox and Saikoho is a genius blend, because I believe the Saikoho hairs help with the resiliency of the overall brush that has the Silver Fox. Silver Fox, to me, super plush and soft, but the Saikoho, I think, will ward off any wear and tear, especially when using liquid or cream products, as I do here with the Haus Labs. But the polished finish that I have from using this brush is just unparalleled. The fact that I use a dot of foundation, that's all I went in with. family. I use that amount, worked it as best as I could across my entire face in this circular buffing fashion that I feel works the product into the skin. Some people like to press product into skin, and I understand that depending on the product's consistency and all that, I like to make sure it's in there and it is smooth and you won't see no texture. And because of the brush's density, I feel ideal to go in this circular fashion to take full advantage of the brush's density, because I wouldn't pounce in, because when you pounce in, you will feel a little bit of prickliness, and that's just by nature due to the hairs having that natural tip at the end. You inevitably will feel that if you go head on. You gotta go in with the swirl and twirl. And although it looks quite short and dense, I do think it's still too long to go in like this. You gotta take advantage of that swirl and twirl. Okay, and I thought immediately, listen, if you don't want to take your chances with the liquid and the cream products, I get it. Going in with the Natasha Denona powder foundation in NP10. Ooh, if you are a powder foundation user, an avid one, or even a mineral makeup foundation user, woohoo, this brush will pick up the product and lay it down smooth and airbrush. It's going to buff that product into the skin and just leave behind a polished look, especially with powders. Okay, I can't speak highly enough. I mean, I am grateful to have received this brush complimentary. I can't stop saying that. And to have the pleasure of using this brush with my products on my face, I can't put into words. My gratitude is infinite. Okay, so when you get this brush, come back to this video and comment down below. Okay, comment down below how you felt, what the stars that you saw. You will be transported in another dimension with the minute you put this brush on your face. I promise you. Moving on, we have some Koyudo selects. Now, I had showed these brushes in my last Bobo video, the Yoshiki collaboration. Yoshiki is the master artisan for Koyudo. We have the Saikoho high grade for both. Foundation brush and the highlighter brush, both are just magnificent. Now we got, we got this Makie high grade Saikoho 3D powder angled brush, as well as a 3D, and is labeled 3D for a reason. The 3D eyeshadow brush, I'm not sure if you can see, but it is slanted here. The bristles start shorter and it has that fingertip like the Chikuhodo F10 from the Silver Fox collection. That brush is like the pick me up any texture type of a brush. Okay, we got the 3D eyeshadow brush and we also have this angled brush. I'm sure you saw in the B-roll shots the Makie design on the flat base handle. You have the kanji symbols on the front and handcrafted in Kumano on the back. This design is absolutely, it's just ethereal. I love sakura flowers, and that's the flower on the handle with the black to brick red gradient, and you have a little bit of like that grit texture in the paint, and also the gold. I'm not sure if you can see, it has like a pearl effect in the paint, so it almost illuminates from the handle. I can't handle it either. Now, of course, the minute I saw this brush, I immediately thought of Mother's Divine Bronze, because in this instance, with the weather so hot and humid, with that said, the complexion was looking quite dewy, and I just thought, you know what? As much as I have been loving the Makeup by Mario, a bronze serum, and the Say Dew Bronze, I wanted to revisit a powder bronzer just to get more of like that blurring effect on the skin where it could take up a little bit of the excess oil and moisture. My goodness, I went in with Bronze Nirvana, the warm tan bronze that's a little more like yellow brown on my complexion. And the thing with this brush is the size. I think it is larger than most slanted cheek brushes that I have in my collection, and because of that reason, it makes for a phenomenal bronzing brush because it's not as big as some bronzer brushes that I have in my collection, but it's not as small as slanted cheek brushes like my Silver Fox one that I have here. This flares out quite a bit, but because now we have the slant, this is a wide brush, okay? And I'm sure you saw on the demo how this brush virtually is appropriately labeled 3D, okay? How it just wrapped around the contours of my cheeks and lovingly placed this powder on my cheeks in a way that was even, airbrushed, but still lightweight. The deposit of color was just right. It was evenly distributed, not too much on the center, not too much on the higher points of my cheekbones, nor was there too much in the hollows of my cheeks. The placement and level of color was perfect. It was perfect, despite the size of the brush and despite its density, right? And I think we love a little bit of density when it comes to bronzing types of brushes because we like that more enveloped, or I'll speak for myself, I appreciate that more enveloped application when it comes to powder bronzers. I like for the brush to cover a larger region upon application initially than like a cheek brush, which I would go to if I wanted more of a precise placement of color into the hollows. But this, my goodness, this brush, if you've been looking for your dream bronzer brush, because I have my favorite bronzer brushes 100%, this I feel is one of the more unique ones. Now let me visit Bobo's website because I think this is labeled as a cheek brush. Excuse me, face brush 3D angle. It is a face brush. Spring limited edition. You gotta go get it. It's a face brush, but not as large as other face brushes in my collection, which I think makes it quite versatile. I do feel this shape in particular is unique to my collection, and it is extraordinary. What an extraordinary experience. It's soft, and as you saw, it doesn't pick up foundation when applying powder products, right? And I wanted to take advantage of this density and go in with what I haven't used in a while, the Chanel eyeshadow and blush palette in 957. A lot of people didn't like this because the blush formula was hard pressed and it was hard to pick up. So I was like, I got this guy. And I just swiped I just went all over the pans, and I thought this brush picked up ample color and laid it softly on my cheeks. Now you could use it for bronzer, you could use this for blush. Maybe not using it with a softer blush because I was initially thinking about applying the Haus Labs. The Haus Labs is a lot softer in texture than the Chanel. I think this brush will be great for those hard to pick up gelée textures like what's found in the Chanel palette versus what's found in the Haus Labs. If you go in with the Haus Labs, I will be careful because this will pick up a lot of blush and it might be a little heavy on the application. You will have to buff away some color. But if you're looking at or thinking about those hard to pick up blush formulas in your collection that sadly you abandoned because you didn't got the right tool, you're like, why I can't even use this blush? But if you have the brush, and if it's that color where you could wear higher hollows or lower on the apples of your cheeks and just take it everywhere as if you're applying the blush as a bronzer in that fashion, see what I'm saying? Okay. And here are the close-ups of my skin texture. My goodness. And you probably see highlight. My apologies. I thought it would be fun to use the angle brush in applying a little highlight because I'm like, why not? If you just have this brush and you're trying to economize your collection and use your tools with as many products as possible, I just picked up my Rom&nd see-through veil lighter highlighter that I have just been adoring lately. Is a soft powder, and why I think I can get away with using this brush in particular, because if I have the highlighter brush, right? I would just use this guy as I did, I think, in my my K-beauty haul video where I used this brush, I believe, to apply the veil lighter. I just apply the highlighter on the tip of the angled brush and it placed it there fine. But we also have the limited edition Koyudo spring powder brush made with gray squirrel. Same Makie technique on the handle here as you saw on the 3D angled face brush. Oh my goodness, I'm very well versed in gray squirrel powder brushes. I think this one is just lovely. Okay, it's not on the dense side as you see here in this Chikuhodo limited edition koi brush. This is all gray squirrel also, but you see the round ferrule. Obviously you have a lot more bristle in this brush than you do here, but this I think special in picking up a light layer product, and that's what I did on the other side of my face. I used this gray squirrel brush to pick up the veil lighter, and because the gray squirrel is, I think, just softer and silkier than Saikoho, it's not going to pick up as much product, but lay it down just like a veil of highlight. The powder formula and the gray squirrel is just harmonious in that way, where it looks silky on my cheekbones and just laid the right amount of product. I wouldn't use this personally with bronzer because, well, maybe if the bronzer powder is quite soft in a way, if you punch your brush in, you get a lot of kickback. Perhaps you could use this brush just to get a light layer. I rather use a 3D. That's just my preference in terms of the color intensity I wish to achieve. If you want a little lighter bit of color intensity, then the gray squirrel will do you just fine. Or if you would like to apply powder foundation but don't want the end result to appear heavy on the skin, then you can use the gray squirrel brush to pick up a lighter dose of color but still have enough there on the skin to do what it needs to do. Or what I did here, I picked up the Hourglass Ambient Luminous Light Powder, used the gray squirrel brush from Koyudo to buff the products around my skin. And as you see on the demo, this brush is beautifully mobile. It moves around the face effortlessly, and because it is flat on both sides, you can maneuver through the brows, around the nose, around the lips easily, and just take it around effortlessly in a way that will leave behind a beautiful polished finish on the face. And personally, from what I've been using for this demo, I would primarily rely on the gray squirrel brush for my buffing, but you could also use the Saikoho if you want more of a robust blend. This by nature, because it has more bristles, and the Saikoho bristle is a little more than the gray squirrel, naturally it will leave more of a polished texture behind, whereas the gray squirrel is just a lot more lightweight. And that really all depends on the products that you use, how much you apply. If you really powder down and you're one to set with loose powder and pack it on, what's the word, bake, if you love to bake, I would use a stronger brush to get that excess powder off. But if you just lightly tap powder on, if you applied your cheek products but you just need a little bit of buffing, then the gray squirrel, I think, a more appropriate bristle for that task. Now we're going into the eye brushes, and this was a lot of fun, and I had to hop back into Prada because if you're seeing this video, I think I would have liked to have already uploaded my Selfridges haul where I featured Portrait. But I do think, as much as I was feeding for Portrait, Poetry is my favorite out of the three that I have, and I wanted to hop back in again to showcase three brushes. The first one is from the Yoshiki series, the 3D eyeshadow brush, and as I had described earlier, it has an off-kilter bristle length going on. The shorter bristles on one side to a higher length, and the other side is just that one length, so it makes for a great pickup. But boy, oh boy, because when you see this type of brush, you might question its ability to blend, because there's no question it's going to pick up and lay down the product on the lid. But what I think unique about this particular brush is that it's on the more narrow side, it's not as wide, and it has great pickup on one side, but the tip of the brush, I think, beautifully carries powder through the crease in a way that's not direct. It actually leaves behind an airbrush finish, and the edges of the eyeshadow look quite soft, and that could be probably due to the formula that I used in this demo, because the satin formula from the Prada Quad is quite soft and easy to work with. I could imagine maybe gotta put in a little more elbow grease if I use like a pat mat or something like that, which would lead me to the conclusion that I would reserve the use of the Yoshiki 3D brush to just softer textures. I would use Viseart satins, Suku satin light textures, those powders that are softer by nature and have a sheen left behind, the metallic formula from Natasha Denona. I would just pair this brush with those types of formulas to maximize the outcome, right? Making sure I get great pickup, but also I have the ability to blend the color through my crease without having to reach for another brush. And this is exactly what this Yoshiki brush does. It feels beautifully soft through the crease. Now, it's not going to have as blurred of an effect like you would get from a bigger brush, yes, like this one from the Nebulae series, which we'll get to for those two brushes that released in that collection, or the Yoshiki brush that I showed in my first Bobo video, where this is a dedicated crease brush. Naturally, it's longer, not as densely packed, and it's going to have more movement on the skin. Therefore, we'll just have more of that airbrushed effect on the shadow. That's why it's important to pair the right tool with the right formula, because when you don't have the right mismatch, it's not necessarily the tool's fault, it's not necessarily the formula's fault, it's just you have to find the appropriate pairing to ensure that you get the makeup outcome that you're looking to achieve. And when trying these different tools with various products from different brands, I concluded, okay, this brush is good for that one, and that, you see what I mean? And that just comes from experimenting, screwing up and trying again. And now we have our 2 new Nebula eye brushes from the Nebula series, and you saw that in action in my first video. Okay, we have the limited edition Weasel and Fitch hair mix. Fitch hair is coarse and soft, and Bobo writes here, I wonder if Chikuhodo blended them to mimic the feel of Kolinsky. That's a possibility, because I did get a Kolinsky vibe when using this brush with the metallic that you see here, and I think it's great not only to, sorry about the noise, not only to pick up product, but to lay it down. And because of the brush head size, you can now lay down product on a larger region of your eye, which is what I did here. I wanted that rose gold metallic to envelop a larger region of my inner corner, and that's why I use this limited edition eyeshadow brush. You could also use it for your mobile lid, and because, yes, the brush not as dense or even fluffy as other brushes you've seen from Bobo, it can still get some color through the crease, all right? I mean, in a more precise fashion. But you can sweep through and just whoo, whoo. And it won't feel as stiff as this Weasel brush, which stiff doesn't necessarily equate rough. It just is an indication of how much the brush moves against the skin, like how much elasticity it has. And the Kolinsky and Fitch blend has a little more movement, and I wanted to actually bring in the Weasel brush that I showed in my first Bobo video, because I think this brush is exceptional to not only lay down product on the outer corner, but to shape it in a more precise fashion like I do here with the mint shade, because I envisioned before starting the video that I wanted to use the mint shade not necessarily as like an accent shade, kind of, but more of a blown out wing. And hopefully that came through when using this brush. And I just wanted to demonstrate its ability again, because I think it quite special when you can use one brush to not only lay down an ample amount of product and an oppressive amount, but also use the same brush to move that product successfully in a way that's shaped. It's not so blown out that it just looks like those wings I sometimes create with darker shadows on my outer lid to create that smoked out effect. I wanted it to be more of an accurate pointed wing, but encompasses a larger region of my outer corner. Does that make sense? And going into the last brush, this is quite unique. A Saikoho and Weasel mix, and I immediately thought of Sonia's original smudger brushes that I have here with the larger base. This one from Bobo is unique, the Chikuhodo collaboration, because you see how dense it is at the base, but how it just thins out severely. Just go whoop. And that makes for great pickup, but also incredible flexibility. I picked up the hyper matte shade from the Prada Quad because I wanted to do like a wing on top of the satin shade and the mint shade, and my goodness, this brush has incredible flexibility. It will sweep across your lash line. It will not carry the skin. It won't have that skipped look. It will just smoothly apply the shadow, and I took it to just like a mini wing, and I have the green to guide my angle, which again, this one right here, hello, okay. You could also use this little guy for inner corner highlight, but because I wanted my highlight to be a little more dramatic, I used the Weasel and Fitch mixed flat brush. This one I like a lot, and I can't wait. Yes, Sonia and Beautylish were kind enough to send me the new Summer Koi Makie set. It's on its way. We're gonna do all the comparisons, okay? But I thought about that brush when using Bobo's Chikuhodo collaboration brush as I was reading Sonia's blog about that flatliner brush. I can't wait to try it, but this is unique to my collection. I don't have a smudger that's this dense at the base, right? But still has great movement and doesn't feel prickly either. It's just smooth across the lash line. And I like that stiffness because I do think the stiffer edge allows for better pickup, especially if you're trying to capitalize on shadows that like the one I used here in this demo and wanted that color intensity to show through on the first application and to build it successfully along your lash line. that brush just did it. And here is the final look with all my products on using these treasures. My goodness, I was reading something on Sonia. You know what? Let me find it, because when I was reading it this morning, and I think Bobo shares the same sentiments when it comes to finding the right tools and just being excited to apply your makeup. When you use brushes that are reliable, disciplined, effective, there is somehow a feeling of contentment when using them. It's just brushes though, but it's the feeling that I particularly aim for with this small crease brush that she was speaking about in the Koi collection. But that is exactly what I feel like and what I have felt for a long time, ever since I dove into Japanese made brushes and just higher tier tools in general, right? It doesn't have to be just Japanese made. There are other brushes that I think are fantastic, and it truly elevates my makeup application experience. You become bolder, you become more experimental, you just get into the nitty gritty. You revisit products that you abandoned because it wasn't a good match with whatever brush you were using at the time. But when you use a different tool with that same product, and then you see how beautiful the color is, the texture on your skin, and it's just, you're unstoppable. And that's exactly how I've been feeling with Bobo's brushes, with Sonia's brushes, with Wayne's brushes. I mean, so many different brands, okay, with Refer brushes also, they all play a role. My Esom brushes, there's room for everybody in this brush collection here at the Archer headquarters. So hopefully this video helped. If you have any of these brushes or you had your eye on them, hopefully the footage, the demonstrations provided a little bit of perspective and inspiration, also tips in how to use them if it's your first time using these types of brushes. And perhaps you saw some products on this video that you haven't used in a long time or you didn't have great luck with, but now that you have a better understanding of the product and the brushes that I use, maybe you have a similar type of brush in your collection and you can make that pairing happen and indulge in ethereal makeup application. You're welcome. A huge thank you to Bobo again. I will see you down in those comments, family, and until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you in here again with another review tutorial brush video, because as soon as that Sonia G collection arrives, I'll be on here as fast as I can. Hopefully, if I'm not at base house. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.